Hello friends, I welcome you to the session on Communication Physics course, that is PHE 16 of our BSc Physics elective under our BDP program. Today we are going to discuss about some basic techniques that are used in communication, and as you must be already aware that we are in this particular course tackling the communication from the physics point of view, various techniques that we use, various devices we use in it, various gadgets that you are operating using the communication at their best working, as well as we are covering even certain computer networking and so on and so forth. But to make all these communications feasible, we need a signal which starts from point A and reaches to point B, that is the receiver at your end, and then only we can have a communication which is a meaningful operation. In this particular case, we are going to talk about the signals and how we are going to make them most efficiently moving from the transmitter to receiver, and how we can make a meaningful use of the communication technology in our daily life. For this purpose, we are going to discuss the modulation techniques today essentially. If you see here in the slide, I have shown 3, 4, 5 gadgets that are used here. Essentially, there is a television, there is a satellite, there is an antenna which talks to the satellite, there is a mobile phone, there is a radio. Now, all these gadgets work on some kind of signal which is being transmitted from point A to point B and received at the end. This signal is, if you see in this bottom figure, is something like this, a sinusoidal signal essentially, and this signal is obviously a very high frequency signal. This signal, the meaningful signal, is actually embedded in this particular signal, and this particular activity of superimposing the meaningful signal onto a high frequency, what is called carrier signal, is called modulation. When we are using any modern communication system, we have few expectations from it, and that I have listed here. The signal transfer should be quick, that is at higher velocity, and to the longer distance, and with less loss in the signal during the travel. The information content that we pack in any signal should be large, and it should be noise free communication. For this particular purpose, essentially we use what is called modulation, where we use high frequency carrier wave to carry a low frequency intelligent signal. Now, intelligent signal, as you know, say when I am speaking to you, it's the audio signal. The baseband frequency of any audio signal is just like say 0 to 4 kilohertz, or you know that for video the baseband signal is from say 0 to 4 megahertz. The bands are very limited, but when you are going to communicate it to another end, then just 1 to 4 kilohertz signal just sent like that will never travel a long distance, as well as the noise that will be incorporated in that signal will be very high. The kind of losses you will have on the path will be very large, and that's why you will try to put that audio signal, which you first, the voice signal you will convert into electrical signal of 0 to 4 kilohertz, you will superimpose it on a carrier wave which will be of much higher frequency, and this is the technique that we are going to use in modulation. The signal to be transmitted is superimposed on the carrier wave, and it can change any characteristic of that carrier wave. The signal can change the amplitude of a carrier wave, or the frequency of the carrier wave, or even a phase of that carrier wave, and this changing will be as per the variations in the intelligent signal. Okay. Now, the change made in this manner in the carrier wave is the modulation, and the intelligent signal that we use for this purpose is the modulating signal. So, these are the basic definitions I would like you to remember. What is modulating wave or signal, what is carrier signal, and what is modulated wave. Okay. So, these are the 3 things that we have just now looked at, and then if we go further, why do we need modulation? in the introduction also I already told you that you want the signal to travel a long distance, and for that high frequency signals are always beneficial. But along with that, there are other aspects to this modulation also. For example, if you are using, say, wireless communication where you have antenna to pick up the signal or to transmit the signal, in that case, you know by the basic dipole law that the antenna size should be of the order of 1/4 of the wavelength of the signal. So for example, if I am having a say 3 kilohertz signal, then the wavelength is 100 kilometers. So the antenna I would need to pick up a 3 kilohertz signal is 25 kilometers long or high, as you may call it. But if I have signal which is at 30 megahertz, then its wavelength is just 10 meters. So in this particular case, I can work with an antenna which is just say 2.5 meters wide. So now you know the practicality of receiving high frequency signals is quite easy as compared to low frequency signal. So that's where our choice of carrier wave is made. What is the feasible height or dimension of the antenna that we can install? Another thing, now what we are doing here is a carrier frequency is say particular frequency, say omega C1. I can have another carrier frequency, say omega C2 also. Now what do I have? Two carrier frequencies. If I have a signal which is a voice band signal, say 20 to 20 kilohertz audio or 0 to 4 megahertz video, anywhere, if I take this for example, in this studio my voice is being picked up. The voice signal that I am right now speaking you with is between 20 to 20 kilohertz. Now this is going on Gyan Darshan 2. Similarly, on Gyan Darshan 1, parallelly you are going to watch another program where another speaker is speaking, whose again the baseband frequency is between 20 to 20 kilohertz. Now, if we had sent both the signals at the baseband frequencies of 20 to 20 kilohertz, both our voices would have just interfered each other. But this is not happening. What is happening is my signal is being modulated on a particular carrier frequency, which is attributed to say Gyan Darshan 2 or EduSat or whatever. Another speaker's baseband voice signal is being modulated on the carrier frequency which is different for and assigned for say Gyan Darshan 1 channel. Okay, so now the same baseband signal we could distinguish because we are having two separate carrier signals. And this is an excellent example of how the most efficient communication can take place. You can have n number of audio channels, n number of video channels. In television you keep on changing the channel and you can see different pictures. Baseband signal in all these pictures is 0 to 4 megahertz. However, you can see different pictures which are carried by different carrier frequencies. So our modulation technique is helping us to separate out different channels. And this is the most important aspect of a modulation technology. Another thing is that since say I am having say 20 to 20 kilohertz as my baseband voice signal, so what frequency do I need? Actually the band of frequency that I need is only 20 kilohertz. But if I have got a medium, something like say optical fiber which has got a very immense bandwidth, in that case you can have different carriers frequencies which could be sent out on the same medium. Only they will be separated by their frequency which is equal to say maybe 50 kilohertz from each other. So you can pack a lot of signal of different channels on the same medium by using modulation at the higher frequencies. So this is the basic reason why we are using the modulation. Modulation can be in different ways. We can have analog modulation as well as we can have digital modulation. Now in analog modulation, what we are doing is we are changing or varying the characteristic of analog carrier wave. For example, a sine wave carrier, where we can change either its amplitude or its frequency or its phase depending on our intelligent signal. We can also use digital modulation techniques. These are very critical and very important nowadays, because in communications, almost all the communication is now being shifted from analog to digital, and hence you are going to have signals which are expected to be in pulse forms, and maybe with pulse having a particular height or of various heights. So in this particular case, the digital modulation technique is you change or vary the characteristic of a carrier pulse trend depending on your intelligent signal, and that can be done in terms of, say, pulse width or pulse amplitude or pulse position. These are the main three techniques that you use in case of digital modulation. Here you are seeing a signal. The top one is a carrier frequency omega c, which you see is much higher as compared to the modulating wave, which is a low frequency signal. And the resultant of this amplitude modulation signal is visible here to you, which is a kind of a same frequency, that omega c, but whose amplitude is changing as per the amplitude of this modulating wave. So essentially we are generating an envelope to this particular carrier signal, which is dependent on the amplitude of our modulating signal. This is the basic signal, how it looks. Now carrier frequency is, say, omega c, and modulating frequency is, say, omega m. Then the amplitude modulated wave has a frequency band which runs between omega c plus or minus omega m. Okay, so it's a band of frequency which moves around a particular carrier frequency. How does the AM process or the amplitude modulation process happen? If we see the same envelope that we were seeing in the earlier graph here in the enlarged scale, then you will notice that this dotted line is actually the modulating signal or the intelligent signal, and this solid line represents the carrier wave. And while generating the envelope of this modulated wave, what we had done is essentially we have modulated the peak amplitude of the carrier wave proportional to the amplitude of the modulating signal. So for example, if you are at this particular point, which is a highest point here, then the carrier wave amplitude, maximum amplitude of a carrier wave is high, whereas here where the signal, modulating signal is low, the peak amplitude of the carrier wave is small. So we have just changed the peak amplitude of the carrier wave with omega m. If we look at the basic theory of amplitude modulation, let us assume that we have a signal Vc which is equal to Vc cap sin omega ct plus phi 0. Now Vc cap is obviously the peak intensity or peak amplitude of the carrier wave, and Vm is equal to Vm cap sin omega mt is the modulating wave. Then the Vc mod, V carrier modulated, is some A amplitude sin omega ct, and it is the modulated wave where A is the amplitude of the superimposed waves, which we can express as amplitude A equal to Vc cap plus Vm. Why Vc cap? Because if you remember in the earlier case we said that we are modulating the peak of the carrier wave by our modulating signal. So we are considering here essentially the peak of the carrier signal and superimposed on it the modulating wave, which is nothing but Vc cap plus Vm cap sin omega mt. If I just take Vc cap out, we get 1 plus Vm cap upon Vc cap sin omega t. Now in this case, expression for amplitude I have written here again, And if you see, the amplitude modulated wave is proportional to the modulating signal. You have omega mt here as well as Vm cap here. The ratio Vm cap upon Vc cap is defined as amplitude modulation index. This is a very important parameter in the modulation theory as well as in practice, as we will see as how value of modulation index is going to determine the quality of our modulation process. If we substitute in the amplitude modulated wave, then Vc mod is equal to A sin omega ct, then this is equal to Vc cap into 1 plus Ma sin omega mt sin omega ct. So, if I expand this bracket, then Vc cap sin omega ct plus Vc cap Ma sin omega mt sin omega ct. This first term is essentially the carrier wave, but this next part is the part of our interest here, and this is of the type sin A into sin B, right? It is Vc cap Ma sin omega mt sin omega ct, which just looks like sin A sin B. But as you know, sin A sin B is nothing but 1/2 cos A minus B minus 1/2 cos A plus B. Then we can write Vc mod as Vc cap sin omega ct. The first term comes as it is, and the second term is Vc cap Ma by 2 cos omega c minus omega mt minus Vc cap Ma by 2 cos omega c plus omega mt. So, now you see what has happened. We started with two distinct frequencies, omega c and omega m, and the resultant signal that we are getting is a combination of omega c as well as omega c minus omega m and omega c plus omega m. We have generated two new frequencies. These two added frequencies are called sidebands or sideband frequencies. Omega c minus omega m naturally being lesser than the carrier frequency, and omega c plus omega m being little higher than omega c. That is why this omega c minus omega m is called the lower sideband, and omega c plus omega m is called the higher sideband. If we want to say experimentally determine the modulation index, then if you remember the definition of the modulation index, Ma is equal to Vm cap upon Vc cap. If this is my envelope, as you are saying here, if you see the zero line, the signal here and signal here are exact mirror images of each other, and Vc mod max is the maximum amplitude that you hit, and Vc mod min is the minimum amplitude that you see. Then Ma can be expressed as Vc mod max minus Vc mod min upon Vc mod max plus Vc mod min into 100, because normally modulation index is expressed in percentage. If we look at say some special values of modulation index, say Ma equal to 100%, what we are doing here means V minimum is 0. V mod minimum 0 implies that we have Vm cap, that is the maximum amplitude of modulating signal, is equal to maximum amplitude of carrier wave signal. In such case, we have 100% modulation, and if you see, the envelope is fully representing the wave, which is this modulating wave, and which is of the same amplitude as that of the original carrier wave. But on the other hand, if we have say modulation index equal to 0, meaning to say there is no modulation effectively, we have V modulation minimum equal to V modulation maximum, means Vm cap is equal to 0, means we do not have any modulation signal. But we normally work with some intermediate values. I have shown here one particular example where we have V modulation max equal to 16 volt and V modulation minimum equal to 4 volt. We can achieve this when we have say carrier amplitude equal to 10 volt and the modulating peak amplitude equal to 6 volt. Then we get Vm cap upon Vc cap equal to 0.6, 6 upon 10, and the same can be arrived by our formula that we defined just now, that is V mod max minus V mod min equal to 16 minus 4 upon 16 plus 4, which is again 0.6. So this is the way you can actually calculate the value of modulation index, and you can also determine how you are going to tune your circuit to a particular modulation index value. Now in this case I have shown you another extreme where we have the modulating peak amplitude to be higher or greater than the carrier wave amplitude. In such case we have what is called over modulation. In this case we are actually having the envelope which is getting like here and then getting truncated in this particular signal. So what we are happening here is that we are losing the signal in between this. So this is not a very good way of transmitting a wave where you are losing some data of your intelligent signal. So one should avoid the loss of data by over modulation, which means that you should always have your peak carrier wave amplitude greater than the peak amplitude of modulating wave. So these are the different values of MA and their implications. Now how do you do the best or efficient communication using amplitude modulated signal? As we know that the intelligent signal that we are interested in sending out is essentially embedded in the side bands omega c minus omega m and omega c plus omega m. So these are actually the signals which we are interested in sending out. So we should be putting maximum power into them. So when we have say amplitude modulation index MA equal to 1, then we can utilize the best way of the amplitude modulation transmission, and we can pack maximum amplitude or maximum power in the side bands, because see this signal is nothing but a waste effectively, because the carrier wave you are just sending out which is not going to be any use. Basically that you are interested is in sending the omega m. Okay. So try to avoid or minimize the just carrier wave signal and put maximum on the side bands. If you see the prefix of both the side bands omega c plus omega m and omega c minus omega m, it's just the same, Vc cap MA by 2. Essentially if we are going to have a signal which is symmetric around, or the envelope which is symmetric around the carrier wave frequency in form of say omega c plus or minus omega m, then it should suffice to send only any one part of this. We don't have to send both the side bands, because both the side bands carry the same intelligence. So if you can reduce the bandwidth or send only single side band, then you can have more efficient transmission, where you can pump in more power of your transmission or transmitter, because the transmitter powers, as you know, in any communication are very well defined and you cannot cross a particular limit that is allowed to your transmitters. So whatever the wattage of your transmitter is there, you cannot exceed it. So what is in your hand in transmission is to use maximum, utilize it optimally and get the maximum benefit out of it. So you can use by sending only single side band, reduce the bandwidth as well as pump in more power towards one side band, so that you have a better signal. So this is the way we can transact about the efficiency of any amplitude modulation transmission. And then we will just go to the circuits actually, how we can generate the AM signal or the amplitude modulation signal. Now you know that in amplitude modulation generation, new frequencies are being generated. Yeah, we have side bands omega c plus or minus omega m, which is a new frequency, as I told you, which was not in the initial sequence. We had a signal which was having omega c and we had omega m. Now we have a signal which is carrying omega c plus or minus omega m, that is new frequency component. Whenever you need to generate new frequency component or new frequency, you need to utilize what is called any nonlinear element in a circuit, or any circuit element which is working in a non-linear range of its operation. This will give rise to some harmonic or bit frequencies, that is addition and subtraction of two frequencies. So essentially in all our circuits for AM generation that we are going to discuss, we are going to use some nonlinear element in it. Here I showed you first the simplest form of AM generation, and this is a very like a kind of a fundamental kind of circuit where you have the modulating signal here, which you feed to a class B amplifier. Now today we are not going to go into the details of any classes of amplifier which I assume you are already conversant with, but just to remind you that in amplifiers we have different classes of amplifiers. We have class A amplifier, B amplifier, class C amplifier, class AB amplifier, so on and so forth. In this particular case we are using class B amplifier because we want to faithfully reproduce the amplitude as well as frequency of the modulating signal, which is very well done by class B amplifier. Of course it is best done by class A amplifier because we are working in completely linear range of the signal in that case. However, energy efficiency wise or power efficiency wise, class B amplifier is much better than class A amplifier, and because it is always using only the half cycle of the carrier particular wave, and so it is almost like a efficiency is quite high in this particular case. So we are choosing class B amplifier. Now in case of carrier wave signal, it is going to be signal that you are going to have, say Vc here, which you can amplify using a class C amplifier. But then how do you modulate these two signals? What you can do is give this output of this class B amplifier, that is here you have amplified intelligent signal, the modulating wave. Then you superimpose this particular signal here on the supply voltage of the class C amplifier. The supply to this class C amplifier is going here with this line, and here you are superimposing the modulating signal on it, so that you are changing the supply itself in particularly in this particular circuit. And so the output of this particular circuit is going to be a signal which is going to be modulated by this modulating signal superimposed on the VCC or the supply. Here I am using class C amplifier because here we are not interested in any of the kind of faithful reproduction of any signal. We are just bothered about the carrier frequency, it should be there. And of course here you have a tank circuit C1T2. This is making the tank circuit which is going to complete the cycle, even though this class C amplifier is going to carry at only a particular partial part of the wave. So at output here you get a full sine wave whose amplitude is depending on the modulating signal. So this is the way we can implement the amplitude modulation using class B class C combination of circuit. Now here another circuit is where only class C amplifier is used, but in this particular case what we are doing is that we have our carrier signal which is going to the base of the transistor, and where the modulating signal is superimposed at the base level itself. So whatever signal is going into the class C amplifier itself is modulated already, and the mixing is happening at this end of the device, that is the Q1 transistor. And again this tank circuit is going to give us the modulated output. Or before going to another type, so let me just make a few remarks. Is that we had discussed the circuits with the bipolar junction transistor, but we can also have field effect transistors used in here for our operations. As well as in both the circuits we have the output signal which is a combination of carrier signal as well as both the sideband frequency components. But as I told you, the carrier signal is not a very great idea because it is anyway eating up on the energy that we are sending out, and hence we are going to use what is called a balance modulator for AM generation. In this particular case we have a class B push-pull amplifier where a matched pair of transistors Q1 and Q2, as you are seeing, the emitters are coupled together and the bases are given the signal of modulating signal into opposite phases. Yeah, if the positive part of modulating signal goes here, negative goes here. So these two transistors are being operated by opposite phases of the modulating signal. However, we are feeding here the carrier wave also, which is going to both the transistors in same phase. So carrier wave is being amplified or is being flown through both these transistors in equal amount. So what is happening here is that we have two current circuits here. One is the current that is flowing through Q1 and current I2 flowing through Q2. So we are having a kind of signal which, in case of say modulating signal is 0, then which is equal, because this is the same signal that is being fed to both the transistors in both same phases. So I1 is equal to I2, and so we have output which is not there, or we don't have any output signal because these two currents will cancel each other. However, when we have some Vm signal fed, then the two transistors, since they are being driven by the modulating signal in opposite phases, would conduct differently, and hence we will have I1 not equal to I2, and effectively at output we will have some signal which will be proportional to the modulating signal that we are feeding. So just quickly, if we look at the mathematics behind this particular operation, then current through a transistor, as you know, can be expressed as I equal to A1 Vs plus A2 Vs square, and so on and so forth. The power series you can always expand on. And for transistor Q1, we have voltage V1, which is Vc sin omega Ct, which is common to both Q1 and Q2, plus Vm sin omega Mt. And so the current through Q1 is I1 is equal to A1 Vc sin omega Ct plus A1 Vm sin omega Mt plus A2 Vc square sin square omega Ct plus 2 A2 Vm Vc sin omega Ct omega Mt plus A2 Vm square sin square omega Mt. Similarly, for transistor Q2 now, as you know, if we are having say positive phase of omega Mt in Q1, then in Q2 we have negative, and hence V2 is nothing but Vc sin omega Ct, which is common carrier signal, minus Vm sin omega Mt. And so we have current which is just like the same, except for these 2 points where we have minus A1 Vm sin omega Mt and minus 2 A2 Vm sin, Vc sin omega Ct sin omega Mt. So now if I take the difference in form at the output, what I am going to get is the difference between the I1 and I2. Output, the voltage will be proportional to a difference between I1 and I2. So my output will be some proportionality constant K into 2 A1 Vm sin omega Mt, because as you know this part was positive A1 Vm sin omega T in case of I1, and here it is minus. So minus minus it becomes plus. And similarly here this item was minus 2A2, there it was plus 2A2. So minus minus we had 2 times, so it is plus 4A2 Vm Vc sin omega Ct sin omega Mt. The first part is entirely just the modulating signal, the intelligence signal, which is much less as compared to omega Ct. So when you are tuning any particular transformer, then this omega Mt can be very easily filtered out by this tank circuit, and we can have only the sideband frequencies at the output, that is 4K A2 VMVC sin omega Ct sin omega Mt, which will be a combination of 2K A2 VMVC cos omega C minus omega Mt minus cos omega C plus omega T. This is the what is called double sideband. We have omega C minus omega m, omega C plus omega m, both sidebands, but it is devoid of carrier. So suppressed carrier. So this is a DSBSC, double sideband suppressed carrier signal. But we are having the similar kind of information packed in omega C minus omega m and omega C plus omega m components. So we can suppress any one of these two also, and we can have single sideband transmission also. and which is commonly used in most of the communication circuits. We go now to a very similar but a simpler circuit now. In this particular case, it is again a modulator, it is called a ring modulator, and we are using diodes here. Now, if you remember in our balanced modulator earlier, we needed Q1 and Q2 which were matched pair of transistors, and which is very difficult to get to exactly characteristically matching transistor. Rather than that, it is much easier to get matched diodes. And so, here we have got a kind of a bridge kind of circuit where we have a modulating signal here, and we have carrier wave signal, and we have a combination of 4 diodes which is giving out an output proportional at this particular end to the side bands. Here again, as I will show you how the common signal is getting cancelled, that is the carrier wave is not going to be going to the output. Now, in this particular case, what is happening is that we have some VM signal and we have some carrier signal VC. VM signal may be present, may not be present, or have any amplitude, but you should have a carrier wave amplitude in such a way that whenever in say positive half cycle of this particular carrier wave, 2 of the 2 diodes should be like conducting, and the other 2 in the negative, but they should be always, for all values of VM, they should be carrying. Then only it is possible to operate this particular circuit. Now, if we consider the positive half cycle of the VC, I am not bothered about VM yet. So, in case of VC, say if I have positive